Right, now today we're going to deal with Module 9, which is how to paint an animal in watercolour. Hopefully you've all read the text, the tutorial matter, and I'm going to be working in conjunction with it. I'm going to take you step by step with this painting, and hopefully it will correlate nicely with the text that you have. First of all, I want to talk about choice of photograph, and I want to just give you a very quick couple of examples of some photographs that I did consider for this video. I stress very much in the tutorial that the animal must be extremely clear. It's no good using a half-hidden animal. It's no good using an animal that is chopped off from the head just underneath the neck. And it's also unwise to choose an animal which is in a very twisted position. Now, I have also said that it is a no-no to use somebody else's photograph without their permission. But I am going to do that today for the sake of clarity. These are nice big photographs. I have chosen this photograph to use for you today because there's extraordinarily a good clarity here. The shadow shapes are extremely clearly defined. Look at that little puddle of light on the cheek there. This wonderful shadow across the chest. The deep shadows on the sides of the legs, and the brilliant whites on the light side. So I'm going to use this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it unrecognizable to the photographer so that he won't recognize this as his own photograph. And this is what you must strive for too. If you would like to paint this photograph exactly as it is, what you have to do is, via the magazine or the book that it comes from, you must contact the photographer and ask his permission to paint it. He may give it to you, he may not. These were some of the ones that I considered and then thought, no, they're no good. This is a lovely clear silhouette of a lion, but he's in an absolute gale. His mane is blowing back, and if you painted him like that, the photographer could recognize it immediately, and that would mean a bit of trouble if you hadn't got the permission that you need. These two photographs are also lovely clear pictures of lions, but if you look at them carefully, you'll see the shadow shapes are not very strong. It's a little bit, the light is a little bit generalized, and there are no exciting shadow shapes. The same with this one. Although he's got a lovely expression, I would have liked to see some colorful shadows on the shadow side. And lastly, I wanted to show you this fantastic photograph. This is a beauty. Look at the wonderful darks there and the contrast between the light pour and the dark shadow. I would never consider painting this, however, unless I had permission from the photographer, because it's a very unusual pose and would be very easily recognized if you didn't have permission. Also, do you see their ticks all over this lioness's face? Now this brings me to another point. If you're considering a photograph where there's something wrong, or that lion has got a big gash, or there's a wound, or there are ticks or something, you would never paint those in. It's not a good idea to put anything bad, anything that detracts from the beauty of the animal, because you won't sell the painting. But that's a real beauty. It's full of action. Right, let's go back to my choice. Now the first thing to do once you've chosen, remember, is to do your tone sketch. So I did a little tone sketch here to work out. It's also a good opportunity to practice drawing the animal, is to do a tone sketch. I'm not going to do the water at all. I'm going to change the surroundings of this animal totally. This is quite a common pose for a leopard. I'm going to change the tail, the angle of the tail quite a bit, and I'll change some of the spot positions, and we're going to put a completely different background in so that it won't be recognizable as this photograph. Here's my little tone sketch. Just to give you an idea, I'm going to put a very dark background behind the head. There's beautiful light on the head, and obviously in an animal you want the head to be the focal point. It usually is. So I will keep the head very light, and I would put the darkest area of the background will go around the head, so that the tonal contrast between the background and the head is the strongest area on this painting, and that will automatically make this area focal. So I'm going to put a very dark background. It's going to it will be dark. It'll decrease in tone as it goes over this way. Not so much though that you will not see the outline of the back, of the light on the back. But by the time we get to this rear end of the animal, there will be lost edges. Do you remember we talked about lost dark edges and lost light edges and how desirable they are? Now the back of this leopard is going to be almost lost against the background, and the back of that leg too. And I'm going to have a cut-off area there for the background. All of this here is going to remain light, perhaps even white, so that the line at the front edge of the legs and the feet is going to be lost against the light. So we've got lost light edges here, very strong tonal contrast here, and lost dark edges there at the back and in the tail. Okay, that's the plan. So let's see how these washes develop. The first step is to put a wash over your whole paper, and this wash is going to do two things. Number one, it is going to unify your painting, so there will be a common color underneath everything. And secondly, it is going to isolate your white. So, referring to your tone sketch, I'm going to put this yellow everywhere except, do you see where I put light, light, light? Except where the whites are, the yellow is going to go over everything else. It's a good starting point, a place. It's an easy starting place for your painting, and it gets you going. I'm going to use a raw sienna, which is a lovely soft yellow, and it's a very useful undertone for African paintings and wildlife. Just before we do that, it's important to clean up your drawing before you put paint on. Remember that a yellow wash, often, it's very weird how it does this, but a raw sienna wash, once it's on the painting, you can't rub the pencil out from underneath. There are colours where the pencil will come off quite easily through the paint, but something about yellow, it seals the lead into underneath the wash. It's a good idea to cut your rubber into little facets like this, because it allows you to get into small spaces and just take out any erroneous lines that you're not going to be needing. Another little tip is, once you've rubbed out on your painting, don't rub it with your hand. You might just have come from the bathroom and put hand cream on, and if you get cream of any sort of oil onto your paper, the watercolour is going to come up to a resist there. So resist the urge to do that, to get rid of rubbings. Just use a nice soft brush, and also a feather is a lovely thing to use. Just the flat of a feather, and it takes all the bits and pieces off. Okay, now to save time, I have already done my masking here. There are beautiful whiskers on that side, which I've already masked. Then whiskers on that side, and I've masked a little bit here at the ear, a little bit there, and that's it. And I did it with this little squeezy bottle, which is very convenient for making very fine lines. I'm just going to give him a sort of an eyebrow line here, if I can get it to work.